recorded in the beautiful mountains of British Columbia. Welcome to
Friends on Horses.
Welcome back to Friends on Horses, guys. We have some very exciting guests today. We actually have two people on the podcast. We are going to be talking about barefoot trimming, and I think I'm going to let them take it from here. I'd love to just you guys to introduce yourselves and let people know what you do and why you work together.
Hello, I'm Christine Tomlin from the Hoof Geeks, and this is my business partner, Francine. Hi. So what we do is we're a traveling education experience with barefoot trimming, and we have conquered Western Canada now, all the way out to Vancouver Island, and hopefully in 2021 we're going to be heading east. But what we do differently than a lot of places is we take our barefoot trimming education on the road. So we teach mostly horse owners. We have taught some trimmers and farriers, a few vets, but mostly it's horse owners, and empowering the owners to understand and take their horse's soundness into their own hands when there's questions and things aren't working quite well for them.
And so just for those listeners who maybe have not experienced barefoot or barefoot trimming, what exactly, like, I'm wondering if you can kind of back up and explain what exactly is barefoot?
Barefoot is basically without shoes, okay? Steel shoes. And barefoot is not about no protection. So hoof boots, or even if you use nail-on nylon shoes, it's about not restricting the mechanism of the foot and making sure that the foot functions at a basically a cellular level inside the foot. When we put a steel shoe on, it's literally like putting an appendage in a cast. There's always a reason that you cast something. If something is broken, you would cast it. So steel is, we believe, as many of the barefoot gurus and grandfathers of barefoot throughout the centuries have basically said there's a place and time for steel, but it shouldn't be used every day because it will actually start to atrophy the function of the foot. Well, it's exactly the same as if you were to cast your leg or your arm. If you left that cast on for extended period of time, you wouldn't be able to use or have full function of that arm or leg because everything would be atrophied. So being able to use the foot function properly is key. So that's what barefoot is.
And I was at a clinic that you guys were at anyways, and we did a dissection of the lower limb of a horse, which my nerd brain absolutely loved. I found it so fascinating. And to give people some perspective, it's like it was I've been having my horses barefoot trimmed for a long time, and understood how dynamic the horses, even the inside of the horse's hoof is, how much it moves. But to pull it all apart and really see how many structures there are in there and all of the components, how they have to move independently and work together, and the expansion and contraction of that hoof is so important. And that is like that is as far as my knowledge goes, but it just blew my mind seeing what was going on in there.
Yeah, that's what when we work with the cadavers, I think we're one of the few people that actually do that, because I mean, really, when you're dealing with a dead foot like that, you don't have a lot of feedback, obviously, because you never able to see what happens after the trim on something like this. But the cadaver work that we do with our customers and our students, that's when the big light comes on. because we're talking about the navicular bone, we're talking about the coffin bone and the laminae and the papillae and the white line, the soul connection, how everything fits together. I think that's huge. And I remember when I was taking my certification years ago, you know, you'd read the textbooks, you'd see the pictures, you'd see the sagittal cut, you'd see the drawings, you know, and you'd see the foot on the horse, even if you're looking at a cadaver hoof in the hole, that's nice, but what's really going on inside? And when we're talking about the internal structures, when we start to do the dissections, that's literally when the light comes on, and everybody, all of our students now are saying, oh my goodness. I think that was the best part, because now we understand why we do what we do when we're trimming, and why the foot becomes distorted and the pathologies start. Because if you can't see inside, that's a big problem. And unfortunately, there is a lot of lack of this information in the professional world, in trimmers, as well as farriers, as well as veterinarians. And we know this from when we go to Saskatoon to the expo out there. The vet college students come over and they look at our table, because we've got one of the most extensive collections of bones with pathologies, and they come over to see what's going on, you know. So we really appreciate the students coming over and having a look, and we love to talk and explain things to them. But this really needs to be known at a greater level in the medical as well as farrier and trimmer world, because there's not a lot of that. So that's why we're called the Hoof Geeks, because we really like bones. And I always tell everybody at the trade show, you know, all the guys that are looking to pick up girls, make sure you come to the trade show table where we are, because bones attract chicks, right? We're always flooded with people asking questions, and oh my goodness, look, this is navicular. You know, so I don't have we don't have our table here, but the dogs are very interested in these bones right now. But this is our this is a coffin bone, okay, and you can kind of see the way that the coffin bone looks. And the navicular bone that everybody hears about, but we don't really know what it is. It's a tiny wee bone like this. And there you go. And what it gets its name, believe it or not, because it looks like the bottom of a boat. Navicular. I'm like, okay. And it sits at the back of the coffin bone like this. And that's where a lot of the problems comes from, the bottom and the cartilage area of the foot that affects the navicular. So everybody thinks it's this bone that's affected. Eventually it is, but navicular occurs way before you can actually see changes on an x-ray. So these are just little things, little snippets of what you're going to learn when you come to a Hoof Geeks clinic. And our goal as professional educators is to be able to get into hopefully one day a vet college to provide a very basic, if the veterinarians would just take a little bit of our theory day to understand what a pathological hoof looks like and contractions for the students in the vet colleges, that would be huge, because we see pathological unhealthy feet all the time, and it becomes the norm. And when we see a healthy foot, it's almost not recognized. We don't really like those angles. Those angles don't look right. Oh, that's because they're correct, and that's healthy. You know, so that's really a big loss in the industry, is understanding that. And so when our students and our horse owners call us to come do a clinic, many times when we pull out the cadaver feet, they go, oh, that looks just like my horse's foot. And they recognize the unhealthiness now of it. And we start to educate them on how to bring it back to function if it's not too far gone.
Okay, I think this is actually a great segue into what a lot of people might not know. What is a healthy foot, guys?
A healthy foot is a horse that can maintain a gait at a walk, a trot, and a canter comfortably on any terrain. Now, having said that, what do you think? Now, a question back to you is, what do you think? Where would that kind of a horse be? What kind of horse would maintain that?
So
First thing that comes to mind for me is movement, like a horse that can move and move a lot over a lot of different terrain and surfaces.
There you go. And what kind of horse is that? In domestication or
I think of a wild horse.
yeah.
wild horse? Yes, this is our model. Okay, this is our model, is the wild horse model. Now everybody goes, well, our horses don't live in the wild, clearly, right? But what I like to be able to say is, how do you mirror that? It's not by a 10 by 10 box stall, I can tell you that right now. That's where everything starts to, you know, slide down the slippery slope into hell, basically. And I say that not lightly, because too many people confine their horses. And movement, if you take, you know, fish swim, if you take your little goldfish, you know, Finding Nemo, and lay him on the coffee table, he's going to die because you've taken him out of his wet environment. And if you take a horse out of its natural environment of unrestricted movement, 25 miles a day, 25 miles a day. If anybody's ridden 25 endurance miles, your ass is so sore and you think, is this ever going to end? This is a long way, right? And that's what I mean. When you think about that, that's a lot of movement for the horse. Now, when we take them out of that and we lock them up in these box stalls, you're literally slowly destroying that creature, mentally, physically, and soundness. Now, getting back to our question, what is a barefoot horse and what is a sound horse? Mental, physical, emotional, and nutritional, and freedom of movement as much as we can. And now, having said a sound horse, a barefoot horse that is sound on any terrain, that is correct. But now I live on a 15-acre farm. I have a track system. Francine lives on how many acres? 20?
20 acres, but just clay, mud.
Yeah, and I live on riverbank, loamy soil. There's people that live in beautiful sand out in western Manitoba, sand dunes, where our girlfriend lives, Cindy. And those terrains are very, very forgiving. And that's all the horses get. So now I want to go to where you guys are and go to the mountains and go ride my horse. Yay! In the horse trailer, away we go. Do we expect them to be sound out there on any terrain? No. So what's the reasoning? Because we don't have the horses moving over these great terrains. So now comes in, well, your horse is not sound. Barefoot doesn't work. Hold on now, barefoot does work. If we were to allow the horse to be able to move its required amount in that day, 25 miles.
On different terrains.
On different terrains. And it's not just 25 miles back and forth the same road. The horses don't do that. Wild horses, what we used to do up north here is we used to track caribou. And caribou would move like almost, oh my goodness, they would go all the way up to Churchill, which is like 800 miles north, and come back down again in 1 year. That is their migratory system. Wild horses are the same. So if we were to load our horses and come out to BC, we need to offer protection to their feet. One moment, please. I'll be right back.
In the form of boots or composite shoes. Mostly, that's what we
I've been hearing a lot about hoof armor too lately. I'm hoping that you ladies will be able to touch on that at one point in the podcast as well.
Yes, absolutely. So here's it's a scoot boot. Like there's many different types of boots. This is the ones that I use on my horses because I like them because they have drain holes for water and sand to get out of the bottom of the foot. And so basically putting this on is like, same thing with you. Okay, well, we're gonna go run a marathon now. All right, let's go across the rocks. You'd be going, are you nuts? I'm gonna go get my running shoes on, right? And then we'll go running. So again, it's conditioning your horse. And it was really interesting because I actually had the opportunity to ride my horse, which is just I'm so excited, right? For 2 weeks, we put on like my girlfriend and I did like 150 kilometers in 2 weeks, and we never rode the same trail twice. And when I started my horse out, he was ouchy and sensitive on the different terrains. I put him on boots, he was good. By the end of 2 weeks, I was riding without boots on harder terrain than when we started.
Wow.
So that's how, now that's a sound horse. Okay, and that's a sound barefoot horse with protection. And again, can you toughen up a foot in a boot? I believe you can, by actually getting more circulation and getting the horse to work properly over the different terrains. But then now comes, well, I'm going to BC and I'm going to shoe my horse with steel. And yes, steel protects the foot to an extent and holds the foot together very, very aggressively with the steel, but it still does not protect the sole of the foot. And when you still step on a rock, that rock can go up inside the sole, and you can still get stone bruising and things like that with the steel shoes, as well as with composite shoes as well.
Yeah.
So again, it's barefoot is just basically having no steel on the horse's foot.
Now, Francine, you mentioned composite shoes earlier. While Christine was grabbing a boot to show us, could you explain to people in case they don't understand what a composite shoe is?
Well, it's mostly nylon blend of shoes. I mean, you still have to nail them on. I mean, we are not a big fan of it, but it's still better than steel because it allows the foot to flex in the parts where it should, like in the arches, the quarters, and at the heels. Like the whole foot flexes in all directions. Steel prohibits that. At least the nylon accommodates that a bit better. I mean, we're still not happy about the nailing.
There's less vibration.
Yeah, and there's less vibration with composite than steel as well, because too much vibration is also very damaging to live tissues. So, and with steel shoes, it's up to
4,500 megahertz at a canter, and 1,200 megahertz at a trot, 800 at a walk. And Dr. Bowker, who is a neuroscientist that has studied soundness in the horse from the ankle down, from the fetlock down, because he says, I don't care about what goes on above the ankle, because if it doesn't work below, everything up above is just phooey. It doesn't matter, he says.
Wow.
It's like, that's blunt, right? So the thing is that when you vibrate tissue within the hoof capsule more than 200 megahertz, for, I think it was like 15 minutes, you start to see constriction of capillaries and blood vessels and nerve damage.
So
wow.
That's a far cry from the 4,500 or even at a walk, it's 800
yeah, at a walk.
with the shoes. So,
steel. Yeah.
you know, when you know that, you kind of go, oh, right? Like it's, but that's the type of stuff people don't know, that we try to make people aware of, just so that they know. I mean, you can't unknow stuff. Once you know it, it's stewing in the back of your mind like, oh.
Yeah. And you see, the thing is too, we were very fortunate, because when we started out in our journey to become more knowledgeable, this is what you had Francine kept on going, Christine, you should teach us. I went, there's no way I can teach all this, because this is just too complicated. Well, here we are, right? I listened to her, and we started out with Claudia Garner from Equine Soundness, and Hildred Strasser was a book I was given as well as Claudia, years ago, like, man, in 2000, 1999, 2000. About a lifetime of soundness. And then we were introduced to Dr. Robert Bowker and Dr. Thomas Teskey. And then, of course, I got a barefoot book from Pete Rainey and Jamie Jackson. So these are the pioneers, and these are the people that have dedicated their life to understanding the health of the foot. And it's sadly, but I have not met a vet yet in the prairies that when you mention Dr. Robert Bowker, they even know who he is. And he's a doctor, he's a veterinarian, and he's a doctor that has studied for 36 years of soundness of the horse from the fetlock down at the Wisconsin State University. Michigan State University. And I believe that if you're learning about soundness in vet school, you should probably really need to know some of the veterinarians that have dedicated their life to understanding what proper function is and what health is in a foot. And when pathologies start to occur, navicular and laminitis and distal descent of the coffin bone and sulcorium atrophy, like what does this all mean, you know? So this is very important, and we're really lucky because these are our teachers.
Yeah.
So we like to be able to.
Well, we went looking though.
We went looking.
See, that's the problem. A lot of people, I think, don't know where to look, number one.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where we come in and go, here's a list of people that you should really follow and, you know, read their books and read their articles and, you know, because we're only a starting point.
Yeah.
Right? We encourage our students to go look elsewhere, go investigate, because there's lots of information out there.
Absolutely. And we always tell them, you know, this at least gives you a baseline so you understand what the other people are talking about. We're kind of like, you know, hoof soundness 101. We were told, oh my goodness, it's more than that. And it's like, well, okay, but at least we give you the opportunity to go out and learn more. It never stop learning, right? And this is what drives us, Francine and I, literally crazy, is if you get into your little box and say, you know, I'm good, that's all I need to know. That will, when I used to be a pilot, and you know, you fly the same plane, you get in the same plane, you do the same check rides every year, blah, 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 blah. It's the same. But you're always learning. You're always learning what else can kill you out there. Okay, there's lots of stuff that can kill you when you're flying. And if you're not always looking for it, someday it's going to catch up to you. It's the same as in life, right? And with hoof care. If you don't keep looking at what might be going on with your horse, someday it might kill your horse. And I'm not being theatrical here. Francine and I see this all the time, and it really affects us, you know, because all of our clients are very dear to us.
So I'm wondering, for, you know, those horse owners out there who are maybe hearing this for the first time, who have only ever had shoes on their horses and are going, oh my goodness, I'm now armed with some knowledge, and what do I do? What are some kind of first really great steps? You know, we talked about movement, we talked about some alternatives to shoeing, but for someone out there who's hearing this the first time, what's a good first step into starting that rehab process? And what does that look like?
That's an excellent question. So first of all, where we go is we say, all right, arm yourself with education. That's the first step, okay? Because it's like, you know, tearing an engine apart and saying, I'm going to put it back together and hopefully it'll run. Well, you got to get educated first, right, on what you're doing. You take all the nuts and bolts apart, but then what, right? So you got to educate yourself. And that's where I say probably taking or getting, you know, in contact with us and taking our 4-day course. That's huge. That's key. Okay, that's your knowledge. Then what you would probably do is pull the shoes. And when I tell people this, they kind of go, really? Do not ride your horse for a month. Okay? Because now, again, do not trim it, pull the shoes, and if it's standing in a box stall, lightly walk it. You know, don't go just turn it out into a big pasture and be chased around by the other horses. Maintain its environment once the shoes are pulled. And then get it on see what your nutrition is as well. Okay, and try to get the horse on optimal nutrition to feed the foot. And
Which we can help you with as well.
yeah. And there is hoof armor and boots. Of course, sometimes horses need boots, but again, you also have to make the decision whether you're going to pull the shoes off, depending on how long your horse has been in shoes and how old the horse is. Because sometimes we'll go out and we'll see people say, oh, I want to go barefoot. How old's your horse? Well, he's 21 and he's been shod since he was 2. Yeah, no, you're just going to leave him alone, right? Because we know that once those shoes come off, it's going to be too much for him. So basically, when we're talking about shoe removal and you hear, well, I don't ride him for a month, what does that mean? Again, you broke your arm, okay? And it's been in a cast for 12 weeks. Now you take the cast off and I'm going to say, here's a bucket of water. You're going to carry it out to the barn for me. And you're going to go, I don't have any strength in my hand. What do you mean you don't have strength in your hand? You're fine. Let's go, right? That's basically exactly the same. People can relate to this when it's on their own bodies. Okay, but you can't relate to it when it's on a horse's foot, because we think that the hoof capsule is a really hard thing. It's not. The hoof capsule moves a lot, and there's a lot of vasculature, and there's a lot of blood circulation, and there's connective tissue in there that you have to understand that we have to slowly rebuild this up. So it is a time commitment, and usually, and I've seen this time and time again, sadly, this is what happens. We always tell people, usually 7 to 9 months after you pull shoes on a horse, the horse is going to have a back set and become a step back and become lame or sore or tender. And I think that is actually what happens, is that is when the foot really, you start to know that you're getting reconditioning. And your horse is starting to feel again. There's nerve regrowth. And that's when the horse goes, wow, I can feel my feet now, and this is really uncomfortable. That's when we have to start going, okay, we need boots, we need pads, we need hoof armor. We have to try to support this horse through the healing. And that's usually when the farrier is called and the shoes are put back on. And sadly enough, then it returns.
And then they say barefoot doesn't work.
And then they say barefoot doesn't work.
And sadly, we are often called as a last resort when nothing else has worked, right? They've tried all sorts of shoes and all sorts of injections and all sorts of whatever. And then, well, let's try barefoot. Yeah. And they wanted an immediate fix. Well, it's not ever immediate. It's a very long time commitment, actually, for some. That's where people go,
it's easier.
Never mind.
Yeah,
It's easier.
Yeah.
Oh, I'll just put the shoes back on and that way I can ride my horse. Well,
and a lot of the times, the fact that it didn't work and the horse went through this is the amount of riding, because I honestly, this is Scout's honor, right? This is what I would say. If you came to me and said, my horse has been shod for 6, 7, 10 years and I want to go barefoot, I'm going to say, will you give him a year to just transition and get through all the garbage that's going to be happening and all the toxins? And what people don't understand too is when the circulation and the healing starts in the foot, and the foot is starting to expel the necrotic tissue and regain function, there is an extremely large toxin load that is actually passed through the liver, and then the horse can actually become sicker throughout the entire body. So you have to go on, you want to supplement and support the liver and the kidneys during this time, and it takes a year. Most people, they all they want to do, they got the horse so they can ride the horse, period. That's all, the end. So we as a human race, are we having these horses because we want to care for them and be a long-term companion, or should you own a bicycle?
Right. Very good statement. So for people who are going, okay, it sounds like this is the right thing for my horse. Holy shit, a year of transition time. Oh my God. Let's talk about some of those bigger benefits, why it's worth that time.
The bigger benefits. Well, you know, the bigger benefits come full circle. You come to one of our hoof trimming clinics, the bigger benefit might never come for your horse, sadly. Okay, the horse you have presently.
Yeah.
I'd say 50% of the time there is bigger benefits because you know, you're educated enough now to know your horse, you have dodged a bullet with your horse, basically. And now you're transitioning the horse to live a long life and be able to be with you longer. And then there's some horses that you know that they're never going to be able to recover from the pathologies that are eaten away. Like this little hoof cap or this little coffin bone here, severe laminitis. The distal border of the coffin bone is completely eroded away. This horse on a lateral x-ray would look fine, but from a distal view and a solar view, this horse is definitely compromised and will never recover from this pathology. All right, so that's why I say 50% of the time, you'll be able to tell whether you can recover your horse or you can't. So there's the benefit there. But where the big benefit comes is when you go to get your next horse or you go to buy a horse. The customers and the students that come to us, and I'm just like, oh yes. And so they come over and go, I haven't bought my first horse, and I had a girlfriend say I should come to your course first. It's like, yes, thank you. This is where we need to start. And we give you a really good foundation. And then when you go out to buy a horse, you're gonna look at this and this and this and this and this and this and this. And if you buy a foal or you have a broodmare that you're breeding and you're dropping these foals, oh my goodness, you can raise the soundest horses out there beyond anybody's imagination. So this is where the real benefit is going forward from where you're at now. And I don't know how many students come to us after and go, yeah, you've ruined us. Now we go to horse shows and all we do is look at feet. And I'm going out to buy a horse and find a horse that's sound, and we can't. And we went, they're out there, but they're like UFOs, right? So you have to really,
unfortunately,
you have to really look, or a barefoot horse, basically, because I mean that's you know, lack of trimming can do as much damage as shoes.
Yes.
Huge lack of trimming. That's massive. Okay. Now, for those people out there going, oh, I couldn't possibly do this, I'm calling, no. And my back is sore. Well,
Yes.
yeah, we don't know anything about that.
No.
Okay. Any woman out there, you know, that says that you can't do this, or man that says that you can't do this, our youngest student was 8. And she, to this day, is still trimming her own horse. I went out there, her pony, and she comes running over and says, Christine, come look at my pony, right? And I'm going, she wouldn't let her mom take the rasp. No, I'm going to do this. And she rasped her horse's foot, and she's doing an amazing job. So do not tell me that you can't do it, okay? Because you can. And where we're going now with our students is we say, trim your horse every 10 days. And they kind of go, well, there's nothing to do in 10 days. Yes, there is. There's like an 1/8 or 1/4 of an inch that you need to take off, because we're so used to seeing the farrier come out and nipper, you know, 3/4 of an inch to an inch or 1/2 inch of wall off. Well, by that time, it's way too long. Yep. You should never allow that wall. You should never allow the hoof capsule that you're looking on your horse change shape. Never. Because if you are able to do that, you're mimicking what a horse would do with its foot if it was running 25 miles a day.
Okay. It's predictable,
conformable.
Yeah. Terrain.
Yeah.
Okay.
So if you trim a little bit every 10 days, that's what you're accomplishing.
That's
our students and our customers, even if we couldn't get back like every 4 weeks, we'd say, here's a rasp, just do da 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 da. And they did. And Francine and I have gone back and seen our own clients and gone, wow, like those feet just come together and raise up there. They're beautiful. And then the owners, I mean, you can just see their little, they get so excited.
It's mine. I did that.
We love it.
Oh.
So now we say that to all our clients, actually. Well, I would say 95%.
Yeah.
The ones that, you know, are very compromised, the horses, it's a bit tougher, of course. That we're talking more a bit of a maintenance trim here. So, yeah, it's working very well.
Yeah, it's phenomenal. And, you know, we empower people to not, you know, and my dad, he always used to say, whether you think you can or can't, you're right.
I like that. What a great,
They say
thing.
that, but I think that's the first thing you say in your.
Yeah, you're here, and whether you think you can or can't, you're right. So it's how we go into it, you know.
Now, as the hoof is healing, to paint a picture for people, what is the hoof when you come back and your clients have been trimming really regularly, or rasping, and then you come to see how things are going and do your trim, and you're seeing positive benefits of the program. What does that look like? So what are people looking for visually in a healthy hoof?
Well, chronically, we see white line separation. So if anybody doesn't know what a white line is, it's a very short little structure that connects the sole. I don't have a hoof capsule. I should have brought one, but all mine are really atrophied, dried up. The sole of the foot to the wall of the foot. That's the white line. And I believe, you know, after 15 years of listening to barefoot trimmers and educators, one of the main problems where the pathologies start is when this white line separates and becomes weak. Because basically, it's connecting the sole to the wall. And when you say that, it should really make everybody go, wow, that's important. Yes, it is, because what's inside of this coffin, or inside this hoof capsule, is the coffin bone. And the coffin bone sits inside here, and it is held up by the earth that the horse is standing on. And if the white line is stretched or unhealthy, or you have white line disease or atrophy, what happens is that support, it's like your sole of your foot or of your shoe gets really weak, and it's kind of that's a bad comparison, because we never walk on peripherally loaded runners. But if we were to, if you were to put a ring, a steel ring that kind of followed the shape of your foot, and you stood on top of that, your sole of your foot would want to fall through that and hit the ground. Okay, and that's basically the peripherally loaded area of the foot, and the connection between the sole and the wall is what the white line is. So when you're starting to see healing, you're going to see that white line connection get sounder and sounder and tighter and tighter and tighter. It should just be a honey-colored line all the way around. There should be no black separation there whatsoever. You should see your walls start to thicken, and the lines on the foot, the rings on the foot, go away or straighten out, because sometimes the lines on the foot, the fever lines or the pressure lines or whatever you want to call it, they say every horse has lines. Well, no, actually they don't. Really healthy feet don't have lines. When you see these fever lines or these pressure lines, that's an insult or an injury to the hoof capsule or inflammation within the horse's body. And I love Thomas Chesky. His analogy is shit settles. And he said, anybody knows septic tank, shit settles. And I was like, that's true. And he says, anything that is above the horse that is causing a problem, it's going to settle out and end up in the feet. And you're going to see what's going on and causing problems in your horse in the feet. And that's how you know the health of your horse. That's why we say no hoof, no horse, K-N-O-W, no hoof, no horse, is because if you can see what something's going on and the foot doesn't look right, then you start looking up into the animal and saying, what's going on? So stretched white line, thick hoof walls, a nice vaulted sole, and the proper angles. So without giving an entire course here, every hoof capsule has a proper angle to it. Healthy hoof capsule. You have unhealthy ones as well that'll never achieve these angles. And that's something that we discuss with people. If you don't have the proper toe angle, proper hairline angle, proper heel height, and something's askew somewhere in there, then you know that what's going on internally. And you can look at a hoof capsule and know exactly, have your Superman radar X-ray vision, and be able to look inside that foot just by seeing what the hoof capsule is providing and know what is causing deformities within the foot. And most importantly, out of it all, is you will start to see the development of a really healthy frog and digital cushion. And that is the holy grail to a sound foot. So going back to your original question, what's a sound hoof? A sound horse, one that has a really tight connection between the laminar corium of the hoof, of the coffin bone, and the hoof capsule, and is super fibrous, healthy, well infused with blood digital cushion. That is a healthy foot. And you look at, well, Francine's got a Mustang. His name's Wheeler, and she bought him 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And he had just been, I think within 6 months, captured in Alberta. So he was feral when we first met him. And I remember, we tell our students about the digital cushions and blah, 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 blah. You never really see them on domestic horses because they're really compromised. Most domestic horses are. So we got this guy, and I picked up his foot, and I was like, look, it's got a tumor. Like, look at the size of this freaking digital cushion. It was massive. It was 3.5 inches thick.
Wow.
And it was hard. It felt like balsa wood. It was so hard. And I was like, this could be healthy. I've never seen a healthy foot like this. And this was because he was a wild horse. And now that's where I want to see all domestic horses, is with this massive.
Even half of that.
Even half of that would be great. But we see, squish little digital cushions with their heel bolts right on the
And
ground.
they're like balloons full of water.
Yeah, and
It's
that's not healthy.
That's why they're sore.
Yeah. Yes. And when horses are sore, a lot of the soreness comes from the soft tissue within the foot, not the hoof capsule. Everybody's trying to fix this hoof capsule. Yes, but putting a steel shoe on a horse is never going to build up the internal soft tissues within the foot. It is a fact, period, the end. You can't argue it.
You mentioned earlier that there's the nutrition aspect as well. And when you were talking about, how what we see happening in the, rest of the horse will kind of trickle down and we'll see it come out in the feet. I'm wondering if you can speak a little bit more to that connection of just the nutritional piece.
Nutrition is huge. Now, again, we're domesticating our horses and we keep them in pens so we can catch them to ride them. And when you have a wild horse, he's out and about and he's traveling thousands of miles in a month. Now, I used to make hay. I hated it, but I made it. Making hay is just not fun. So you're out there and you're in your round baler and you're baling your hay and you're going about 300 to 500 feet, and then you're tying your bale off. So when you think about, you got a 40-acre parcel of land and you're going within one bale, it's about 300 to 500 feet of that field, and then you're feeding it to the horse. Is there any way on God's green earth that the horse can get everything that it needs from 300 to 500 feet piece of land on 15 on one field? There's no way. Okay, so then this is, and I have to be careful here because I will have multi-million-dollar feed companies coming after me with, no, I'm not. But there's no way that feed companies can provide an accurate level of nutrition to compensate for your hay if they don't know what's in your hay. There's no way. Okay, this is chemistry and nutrition and science. So when we're talking about proper nutrition, you have to know what's in your hay first. Then, as a horse owner, now you can go out to the different feed sources and go to the different feed stores and say, here's my hay analysis. This is what my hay contains. Can I buy a supplement that will balance it to this this requirement, and show them the requirement? Now, if you are a hay or a supplement company or a nutrition company, you should by rights be able to read the hay analysis and say, this is what your horse needs. We will provide a supplement to accommodate your hay. But nobody does that, right? You go buy the feed of blah, 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 right? And honestly, everybody's trying to do the best for their horse. And again, we absolutely, my hats are off to everybody who's trying this and trying that and giving them this and giving them that. But when we look at the basic requirements, what we have learned to study on is we're taking the basic requirements of a wild horse and doubling it. Right?
Okay.
Now, what's key for hoof health is making sure that the trace minerals in your feed and your hay combined, okay, is iron, copper, zinc, and manganese. And making sure that those are within the ratio of each other, and that the manganese, or the iron is not so high in your feed that it's sucking the copper and the zinc out. Because copper and zinc are the two minerals that really, when you even put horses that have laminitis or compromised feet on it, the soundness comes back right away, because that's what the foot needs. And too many times, the hay is too high in iron or too high in manganese, and it is depleting the horse's body of the copper and zinc, among other minerals as well. And the horse can synthesize most of the vitamins, except for vitamin E, in their body, if provided the proper nutrition. Living outside in the daylight, and people, they need vitamin D from the sun. How many horses live indoors? So that's when you have to start providing these other nutrients. So if you understand, and this is what we also offer, it's a 4-hour course, Reader's Digest version, but we give you a manual to go out and try to figure out how to test your hay, understand what your hay contains, understand what your hay is lacking, and figure out how to provide your horse that nutrition. And in many cases, the horses aren't getting enough. That's the problem. And you see that in the feet. You can just look at the feet and go, cracked feet, flared feet, chipped feet, feet that have soft walls. And how many times I just heard it yesterday? Oh, my horse has white feet, they're soft. No, they're not soft. The problem is that you have insufficient copper and zinc in order to balance, because of the high manganese and or iron. So it sounds like a lot. And when we have a friend, Connie, who was always on Francine's and I case to, get note up on this. And I'm going, I just can't, because it's
like there's a lot to know.
There is a lot to know. But again, Francine says, this is important. We have to do this. I said, all right. And then I called Jana, who's another friend of ours, and I said, you got to dumb this down. You got to make me understand this, because I have to teach it. Okay? So she did, and she did a beautiful job. So if I can understand it and I can teach it, everybody else, it's kind of like, Sesame Street nutrition for horses. Okay, this is where we go. So,
but we also provide, contacts for people to, like Jana, for example. She's our nutrition guru. So people,
Sally in BC.
Yeah,
Sally.
We give them that little 4-hour course, and then we go, okay, if you have any more questions, call those girls.
Yeah.
They'll help you out.
Yeah.
So at least they have somewhere to go. Because a lot of the times, I think people just don't know
Yeah.
what, where, who, what, right?
Yeah.
But that's what we're trying to provide to people as well.
And there is a company out there in Ontario, again, I'm not throwing names out because if you want to know, come to our course. There is a company in Ontario that will custom balance a mineral for you for your specific hay. And you have to test your hay every year. It costs $50, people, okay? Yes, test your hay every year. But I board. Okay, we'll go to your boarding facility and say, can I test all of your bales? I want to get a balanced mineral for my horse at this stable. And then they'll say, yeah, sure, knock yourself out, go do it, right? And then you can feed your horse whatever. And maybe a bunch of other boarders will get together and go, oh, what are you doing? This is awesome. Let's get our hay tested, and then we can all go on this mineral. And when you do that, you will see the definitive line at the hairline of the hoof capsule, and the cracks that you constantly see and the flares that you see in your horse's foot will stop the day you get that mineral balanced and the feed balance, and you'll see a healthier foot grow out. Now, David Landerville is another amazing man. Oh my goodness, my hats are off to him because, you know, Francine and I have been studying and learning more, and every time we learn something else, we change our manual. And people go, what, another manual? And I go, well, yeah, because if I learn something new, am I going to keep it from everybody? No.
And stuff that works, like why would we not teach it?
Yes. So David came out and started talking about nutrition and understanding these lines and doing a specific trim for a heel first landing. And when he started talking about manicuring the frog in order to get that horse to do that heel first landing to build the digital cushion, Francine and I were kind of like, what's really, dude? Like, that's it? Just the, you know, this little froggy thing that you do? You know, he did that. He came to a clinic at Francine's and he trimmed her little pony before and after, like within half an hour of him trimming that. All he did was frog work to that horse. She was striding out and from the shoulder and actually committing her heel first landing. It was incredible. And
Wow.
so we tell people how to manicure the frog now and how to build internal structures. So every one of our gurus that we've gone through, like, I mean, that I can't even explain to you guys, like with Pete Ramey, he has an incredible amount of information online, and he is a wonderful author and can explain things so well about trimming and rehabbing feet. And then we get Dr. Bowker, who talks about the internal structures and understanding what is going on inside, what is falling apart inside, why are horses sore. And he discusses when you take x-rays and radiographs, taking a radiograph to see soundness is, he said, it's like looking at a pile of ashes after and saying, look, there's a fire. He said, by the time you see changes on the bony columns, it's too late. You need to know what's going on ahead of that. Well, how do you know? Nobody can, if you can't see it on radiograph, how are you supposed to know? Well, that's where we come in. We teach you how to notice when your horse is not sound. And when you're trimming properly and getting it all the nutrition and lifestyle and movement and the trim right, if your horse is still sore, well then we need to look further and see what else is going on. And then there's Thomas Teskey.
Good.
Thomas is incredible. And if anybody wants to learn the whole gamut, like just squished in one box, like everything that you need to know about Barefoot, it's called
Insight to Equus.
Inside to
It's
Equus.
his book that
It's his
he
book.
published just last year or this year?
Last year.
Last year.
Yeah. So just Google Thomas,
Teskey.
T-O-M-A-S, Teskey, T-E-S-K-Y. And he has Insights to Equus. That's what it is.
Right.
Yeah, Insights to Equus. And we have a carton of his books in our hoof trailer, and we sell those as well for him. And he's incredible. And he discusses trimming and lifestyle. And he owns a ranch that he used to work with his father, a working cattle ranch, and he's a veterinarian. And he used to shoe all of his
And a
horses
farrier,
with steel.
yeah.
Yeah, and a farrier. And one day he said he just was overwhelmed with all the hoof problems, and one day he just pulled all the shoes off his feet and has never looked back. So these are people that have power to their punch, right? And they've lived it. And so I actually bought a horse this year, and he's 7, and I had him x-rayed, and he doesn't look bad at all on the x-rays, but he was 150% a navicular horse. Going to happen, but hasn't yet. Okay? So he's a quarter horse, and the way that they stand him up, and he was toe stabbing and walking around like this little chipmunk, and I'm trying to get a heel first landing. So I bought him as a case study, basically. And it's wonderful to see how he's transitioning. Now, David Landerville wrote something profound, and we say this lightly at our courses, but I say when people come to us with horses and they have a problem, we tell them right away, are you willing to give your horse the best care you can for 3 years? And then they go, wow,
3 years.
3 years, and not ride him maybe for a year. So horse owners generally do this. They will commit. Professional people will not. Horse trainers generally will not.
Competitive
people, because they're out there to make the money, right? And riding your horses at young ages, and you all know the Western and the English and the racing industries, you all know who you are. That destroys these little animals. Don't get on their backs until they're 4. Well, there's no money in that. So the whole industry has to change. And what David talks about is it takes 3 entire full hoof capsule regrowths to occur before you will know whether you have achieved the soundness. And then the healing will start to occur. Now, when you really think about that, I tell our students, you're going to trim this foot now, and we're setting it up for success. And what we're doing is we are providing a blueprint for the new tubules that are growing down the foot to follow. This is the blueprint of a healthy, functioning foot, as much as we can get it on the first trim. And that's why we say trim every 10 days. You need to maintain that healthy blueprint. If you leave it 4 or 6 or 8 weeks to expand again and start to have stretched white line, and well, that's not a healthy blueprint. You need to maintain this foot. And I tell our students, when you pick up the hoof capsule, it should never look different. When you go back to trim it in 10 days, you'll go, well, it looks the same as before. Exactly, good for you. Good for you. So take the fine side of your rasp, and Thomas Teskey says, why does grooming stop at the hairline? Everybody have a rasp in their grooming kit, and just rasp a little bit of the wall to maintain. The foot should never change shape. And if it does change shape, you shouldn't be able to notice it. And 3 entire hoof capsule growths. Then you'll stand back and go, is my horse sound? 3 years. And if you don't like that, become a Christmas tree farmer, because it takes 7 years before they can actually make money, right? You plant a little tree and you gotta wait 7 years before you're gonna get your money back. So you don't want to breed horses and stay off your back for 4 and become a Christmas tree farmer. I think it'll be better.
Now, guys, I apologize. Mira and you guys take it from here. I think I hear a tractor outside, so I have to go and check on that because I don't know why that would be a thing. So
no problem. Farm life, hey?
I know. So keep chatting, and I will go and check on what sounds like a tractor.
Okay.
Normally I ask this question kind of closer to the beginning of the podcast, but I'm curious, and of course only what you'd like to share, but how did this journey start for the two of you? Was there a specific horse that was in your life that brought you to this?
Of course.
Always.
That's usually what what happens, right? Oh, I'm in trouble. Nothing else is working. Maybe this will. For me, it was I had a 6-year-old quarter horse, and she couldn't hardly walk, and I didn't know why. She was getting regular farrier work, and of course, she was overweight, but so much so that, unbeknownst to me at the time, that is like a diabetic horse, right? Like, you keep feeding it, and it's this big, and it's like, oh my God, my feet hurt, and like no one else. Vet says, well, she's fat, she should lose some weight. Okay. And the farrier goes, well, she'll be fine. And you're kind of going, no, she's biting me when I'm trying to drag her out of the barn. Like, there's something wrong, right? So, everything happens for a reason, right? There was a lady that was putting on a Barefoot info session. Barb Fenwick, and just outside not far from my place. I'm like, I'm gonna go ask her, and the rest is history, right? Like, we went from Barb to James to on and on and on, and here we are talking to you about hoof trimming. But I think there always is a problem horse that will drive you to look for different answers. So, we totally understand where our students are coming from. So, you probably had a horse as well.
Yeah, I started out with Bud, my stallion, and he had severe ring bone. I didn't know what ring bone was. His feet turned in, and I was suggested that I could either let his bone fuse or get him fused, and then he was such a sweetheart. And then I've had many. Then I had Thunder, my little horse that foundered. And there's always questions. You always want to learn more. And in hindsight, if we would have known what we know now, we could have saved them. Maybe. Now, I say this maybe. Okay. There are horses out there that are too far gone, especially when it comes to laminitis. Laminitis is like, I can't even really, I don't know if it's because I'm 50, but I get so emotional now when I'm talking about horses with laminitis, right? Because it is devastating. It is devastating.
The problem is it's chronic by the time we see it. And
Yes.
People don't even know they have laminitis.
Christ, the vets don't even know that the horses have laminitis. I don't know how many times we've gone up and we've seen these horses, and they're just in rages of pain, rock back on their feet, and let's say he's got navicular. What horse stands on his heels when he has navicular? None. Zero. None. The horse has got laminitis. And because they're not obese, or because their feet don't look like slippers or too high or something, their feet look sort of okay, but the horse is insulin resistance, or they have Cushing's, or they have metabolic problems. Laminitis is a body condition. It is type 1 diabetes in horses, and you should be able to recognize this years, probably 5 years before it actually enters the foot. But people don't recognize that.
Oh, he's lazy.
Yeah, he's lazy, or he's grumpy.
He's grumpy, or I don't know, he doesn't feel like working today. Those are all signs.
Yes, and
because horses don't decide they're not working today.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, people say that.
Yeah.
Horses don't.
And diet.
And we forget about that, I think.
Yes. So those are the ones that we get called on, and sometimes it's the end of the road on them, and you have to call it and
the owner
support them, because I think they know it, right?
Well, the thing is that sometimes the vets go, well, no, it doesn't have laminitis, so they don't know who to believe now, right? Because vets have a very powerful voice, which is fine, but yeah, it does have laminitis.
Yeah.
So it's hard for owners. I get it. We were there.
Yeah. And the ability for people to know which cases that they should actually take on, and they should understand when it is too far gone. Yeah, that's a hard call, okay? That is a very hard call. But knowing the ones that you can rehab and doing it, if you can handle getting them through these stages for 3 years, and you see in Canada, oh my goodness, what we have up here that a lot of other countries don't have down south is winter laminitis. Because when you think about it, how many times have we, well, you live in BC, I shouldn't be talking to her, right? Come to the prairies, right?
Winter
In the
is a
prairies
killer.
at 40 below, yeah, you freeze your fingers how many times, and you don't have circulation, and then you go outside and your fingers turn to ice, and the pain in them is excruciating until you freeze them even more, and the nerves start to get more damaged, and then inflammation happens and your hands get hot. Oh great, my hands are warm up now. That's that.
Then they start hurting.
And then they start hurting again. Well, that's exactly what winter laminitis is. I have winter laminitis, and you probably
Yes,
do too.
I do.
Many people do. So when you're trying to get them through these waves of the winter,
You just get them fine, then winter hits and then like boom.
yeah,
So people kind of can't do it anymore. You know, they watch the little creature in pain all the time. Like it's hard. It's hard.
so if we can prevent it,
Yeah.
that's where we are. Everything we teach is awareness and prevention, awareness and prevention. Let's not let it get to that point. And I love Thomas Teskey. He said, when he read right out of his freaking vet manual, he said, there is no cure for blah, blah, blah. And he goes, well, what about, there's only management after the fact. And his statement is, what's with the management and no cure? Let's be aware and prevent it. And that is, when we heard him say that, we said, this is our guy. Like, this is exactly how we believe it too, is bringing awareness. Like with this horse I just bought, I know he's on the slippery slope down to navicular, so I'm now being aware that this is going to happen, and I'm doing everything that I know how to prevent it. And let's see how we can reverse this. So that's what we teach, and I think that's why people come to us, is because we talk in layman's terms, and our manual is 600 pages, and it's sectioned off into 4 different days. We used to do day 1, 8 hours of theory of me gabbing and just cramming this all. And I said to Francine, we're killing the people. Like, they're done. They cannot possibly maintain this in one day. So now we've broken it up into 2 sections. And in order to go through our entire course, you have to take day 1 and day 2. It's all theory. And understanding healthy feet, understanding pathological feet. Then on day 3, we trim cadaver feet and dissect. And on day 4, we trim your actual own horse. Because most people are coming to a clinic to learn how to trim their own horse or horses. We have a few people that are coming and actually have become professional trimmers and are doing a bang-up job. You know, and actually getting asked by farriers to come and trim their horses' feet, which is really cool.
That is
so.
really cool.
That's the 4-day clinic, and it's, like I said, quite an in-depth manual. But we break it down, and we make it as easy for people to understand it as possible. And one thing that we do offer that many people don't is, if you come to a full Hoof Geeks clinic, any place on the planet that we're teaching another one for as long as you shall live, it's kind of like a marriage contract, you can come back to any clinic for free. Because what we want to do is, we've given you a lot of information, and just to come back and sit in the class and listen to me say it again and again. We had one student, Carol, bless her heart, I love her. She came back, I think, 5 or 7 times, and each time she came back, she's scribbling in her manual and everything, and finally she says, I've got it. And like lately, I just saw her this fall in Saskatchewan, and she says, you have a new manual, I want it. And I said, absolutely. So we're going to send her the PDF version. But that really helps our students, and what we love to see is they come back, and they've been out trimming for a year or however long it's been since they've been doing their first class. And then we go, okay, now what we do is we pair up our alumni students with our new students and say, all right, we're going to go out and trim our cadavers now. You and you go and help so-and-so. And I said, if you can explain it and answer their questions, you know it. And that is where the magic happens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think we've heard anyone say,
No.
oh, I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
You know, like they all say, oh my God, I didn't remember any of this in the first time I came out.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's really cool to see.
Yeah. And we love seeing that. And then they say, well, this has just been so great because I could help them along, and I got that, and they improved their trim. And so, and we've had students come back, like I said, you know, they just come for a visit and end up staying the whole time, you know, and we love it. And we love hearing their successes and their stories. And one woman says, you guys are empowering women. And we met this one woman in Saskatchewan, Lisa, and she says, oh, I can't trim. She just kept saying, I can't trim, I can't trim, I can't trim. And all of a sudden I hear this banging behind this door, and I was, what's that? And she's, oh, those are my, like, I don't know, 5 or 7 bulls on the other side of this little door. And I went, bulls, like intact bulls? And she goes, oh yeah. So what do you do? And she says, well, I go out and check fences, and she deals with the cattle while her husband farms the grain. And I'm like,
And on horseback.
by yourself. And I'm like, and you're saying you can't trim? No, you don't get to pull this. You can't say you can't trim your horse if you're out there with your bulls and roping your own cows and everything like that, repairing fences. So it's incredible that she actually thought she could do this. And now, oh my goodness, she's just passionate. I just love her to death. She's incredible. And the successes that she's had with her horses are great. And she just bought another horse and getting him tip-top shape. And she's I thank you so much, because when I was looking, I bought a sound horse. So that's huge, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, and when you take your course, you know, if you need questions asked, we're always, you know, no more than a click away, basically. And
Email, phone call, whatever, text, it doesn't matter.
yeah. And our goal, I think, I always tease, I say, well, you know, I'm not old, but I'm 50. I said, so I got another only 50 years to live. So the grand finale of our lives is that we would like to be able to do just an equine podiatry segment in the vet colleges in Canada. Just, that's it, just awareness, because there's such a lack of that. Yeah, you know, and even
Well,
the
they
vets,
even say it.
yeah, they say, we don't know anything about that. That's why we leave it up to the farriers.
Yeah.
And granted, that's good, but there's, even the farriers aren't getting the baseline that they should be getting.
Yeah.
You know, so we all want to work together, and we all want to say, you know, and I mean, if I had to put a shoe on, yeah, I'm gonna go call a farrier. Even if I decide, okay, one day I'm gonna use a composite shoe, I need to get a farrier to nail it on correctly, and not quick laminate or drive it through the coffin bone, which you see a lot happen, right? So again, there's good and bad in every industry, and we're trying to bring us all together. So we have to keep awareness in mind. And I think so far, we do work with, in conjunction with Brigida and Connie they own Success with Horses in Alberta. So they have a certification program, but you have to go to their farm to do it. And I think eventually we would like to be able to have an overall kind of school
that
national
people come
school.
to us.
Yeah, that people come to us. But Francine and I discussed this too. They always say, well, when are you guys going to retire? I don't think we're going to be able to stop going on the road, you know,
No.
because
I think that's, I don't know, people will do that before they fly out here, right? Like for you from BC, why would you want to come to Manitoba? And really, if we're teaching people how to trim their own horse, we want them to be able to bring their horse as much as possible to the clinic. I know sometimes it's impossible, but you know, that's kind of the ideal situation. And then they can see, oh, like it's real, it's there, it's my horse, it's me doing it, it's, you know.
Yeah. And we've got calls now to go east to Ontario. So, and she's French, so I said she's teaching the course and we go to Quebec.
Perfect.
Oh no!
Oh, I know. That's what I can't say.
So if people are wanting to find you or find out more about clinics and you know what your schedule is like in the upcoming year, how do they get a hold of you and where's the best place for them to look?
The best place is our website, hoofgeeks.ca, or on our Facebook page. We have all our clinics there as well. It's just at Hoof Geeks, I think. And yeah, if you have any questions, you can just email us. Our email is on our website, and our phone numbers are too. So if you'd rather phone us, some people do.
And clinics for this year? Next year, I mean? 2021?
Well, I don't have them up yet because they're not, you know, it's hard to confirm a date in these times, but the plan, I still try to make a plan. Early or late March, early April will be Saskatchewan. Then we're going to move on to Alberta and Lloyd and Edmonton. Then end up in Kelowna in the middle of June. After that, I'm not sure. Probably a couple more places in BC, I would imagine. So I'm not sure when we're going east. Probably during the summer.
Mm-hmm.
And if there's someone out there who's been super inspired by what they've heard and they're not in one of those areas, should they still reach out to you?
Yes.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Because we can let them know what we need for people to host a clinic. And if they know someone with a facility, we can certainly contact them. You know, all we need is a contact and we go from there. So yeah, anyone just contact us for sure if you're interested in having a clinic, going to a clinic, or
we're not against people who just say, you know what, I want to go meet them, I want to go to their place, and I want to go learn privately. We are open to that too. You know, we haven't had any requests like that yet, but we certainly are definitely open to that as well. Because I mean, you get the more one-on-one personal training that way as well, and you can kind of follow us around and get the course here. That's also an option, but it's not, I don't think, as advantageous as going and seeing all the different type of horses and being in a community event like that is, you know, when we're doing clinics on the road. And as far as maybe people out there are going to be going, well, I want to do this, what do I need? Okay, well, first of all, you need some place that has a barn or an arena that can accommodate sometimes up to 14 horses spaced out, so they're safe, and a classroom that can accommodate and have 20 to 25 people. We have a traveling road show, so we have our whole screen up there, projector, tables. We set up 3 big tables with all of our bones, and then we have tables and chairs for 20 people to sit, bathroom, lunches, so on and so forth. And it's all provided by the host, and whoever organizes and hosts the clinic gets their clinic for free. That's the perk. That's an $800 value, because it's $200 a day is what it is. So and again, it's a lifetime investment. And when you think about, you know, the money in a year that you'll save, and I got everything from, the only thing you probably won't save money on is when you go home and read is on your track system. But you know what, kudos to some people. I remember David Landerville, when we're talking about track systems and putting that in, we discussed that in the clinic, and I remember him saying, you know, he had these 9 horses, and he said he had 1.5, and I'm thinking 1.5 sections because he's from Arizona, and 1.5 like what? And he goes acres, and when he said that, because Thomas Teskey's got thousands, right? And when he said that, thank God he said that. That's all I can say is, David, thank you, because when I moved from 280 acres to 15, I was having a panic attack. Okay, and most people would love to have 15 acres, and I'm going, what am I going to do on 15 acres? I'm I'm gonna give your head a shake. So when I came and actually put in my track system on 15 acres, and I was thinking he has 1.5 and he made a track system. So there is, you can even put a track system in a small paddock. You know, if you want to increase the movement of your horse, anything's possible. You know, you just have to be able to try something, you know, and if you're not willing to ride your horse 25 miles a day, which most of us don't. It took me 2 weeks to ride my horse 150 kilometers and my ass was sore. So I know how much
Well, a lot of us don't have time.
and we don't have time, right?
Well, especially in the winter.
Yeah. So we really have to always be thinking about how can we get the horse to move more and mimic nature. That's huge. You know, we can love them all we want, but just remember, our horses are wild animals. If you look at a moose or a deer, that's more like what a horse is, not like these lazy creatures that are laying on the
couch.
on the couch right here, right? A horse is not a dog.
Yeah.
Dogs don't like being outside in the wintertime. Horses don't mind it, you know, so yeah.
Well, this has been incredible. Just so much information, really informative. Just before we wrap up, was there anything that you wanted to speak to today that we didn't get to?
I don't know. I think we kind of covered it, kind of the nuts and bolts of who we are, what we do, and why we do it. Is there any other questions that you'd like us to, you know, answer? Oh, and what I do want to say is to all of our trimmers out there and all of our colleagues out there that are trimming feet, you know, don't be afraid to give your customers a rasp and say, here, do something in between, like you guys do that yourself. Do something in between. And hopefully your student or your customer will actually take over control of their horse's feet, because then it gives you more time and more space to take on new horses. So many times people are so afraid to lose a client, you know, and I think that's kind of where Francine and I, when we started thinking, well, it's probably up to 600 and some students now that we've taught, times average 4 horses even. Like, you know, some have got herds, some have one. That's a lot of horses essentially that we trim a month. You know, so
That's a huge amount.
Wow.
it's a huge amount, right, that we're actually educating and teaching people. And we will work in conjunction with anyone, like just call us, come out there. We love meeting new people. And our students as well bring information to us. And that's how we grow as well. We're information, you know, we're like suckers, you know, information suckers, sucking information out of everybody else's head. And we love our students because they always bring great ideas to us. And we want more vets there, definitely. And we want more trimmers and farriers there. Come with an open mind. And this is where I say to farriers, you know, when the farriers go, no, barefoot, blah, 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 you know, it's like, guys, there's subtle differences. There's not a big difference. But a pasture farrier trim is different than a barefoot trim. And if you knew how and understood more about just doing the pasture barefoot trim, and then also be able to put shoes on and trim for a shoe, trimming for a shoe is completely different, right? Like it's hard to put a horseshoe on one of our trims because there's not enough wall, right? And there's not enough leg, and it's not flat. So you have to be able to groom the foot in preparation for a shoe. So if you knew how to do both of that, oh my goodness, you've got a printing machine, right, for money, right? Because I mean, you're not going to lose clients by coming to one of our courses. And we'd had a student in Saskatchewan that went to our clinic because his girlfriend told him to go. And then when he realized that he could actually do this, he sought out, and he knew no horse people. He went to a farrier and started telling him that he went to one of our courses, and the farrier listened to this guy and said, he actually made sense. Well, that's good. And he actually said, when I come home after a long day, I don't feel like trimming my horses. So he trims all my horses, and he said, and they haven't got nice feet now. I was kind of like, oh my goodness.
Like this is a farrier came to us to tell us that, to kind of compliment us. I'm going, wow, like
That's awesome. You know, so
Yeah.
so that was great. And now he takes them along and does a little. Helps them trim, right? And of course, the farrier puts the shoes on. We love that. Like we want more professional people coming. But the thing is that we really have to work together. And just lately, I heard here's an example of why there's this division, and it's not fair. Okay, in for the horses. When you're vetted for a competitive trail ride or an endurance ride, you have to remove your boots in order to trot your horse for the soundness check. Because the horse is not considered sound if he's got boots on. I was like, wait a minute. So are they pulling the steel shoes off the horses? Well, no. Well, if you pull the steel horses off, the steel shoes off the horses, and then get them to trot on the same surface that the barefoot unbooted horse does, that there is considered, I'd say, fair. But why is a barefoot horse in protected shoes, like I discussed earlier when we started? Because if you live on sand and you go out and you go on a trail ride that you don't know what you're going to encounter, why would I not, in my right mind, put something on that I know will support my horse, his soul, and from getting chips or cracks? It's not because my horse isn't sound. I'm being kind and giving him more protection, and yet not contracting his foot with steel. So when you see that, and that is actually, that's kind of the deterrent, and that's where we kind of want everybody to be able to be reasonable in their understanding of what truly barefoot is. So that's why we'd rather work together. And if I was at a ride, I would like to be able to come equipped with the equipment that I use to provide comfort to my animal. Does that make sense?
Oh, that totally makes sense. And by the way, the tractor was a very kind person coming to clean out my round pen for me of snow. Isn't that wonderful?
That's awesome.
wow,
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah, lucky me. One question that very quickly, Mira, you had earlier, and we've talked about hoof guard here and there, but quickly, what is hoof guard for those listeners?
Well, simply put, it's kind of an epoxy-like substance that you put at the bottom of the foot hoof for protection. It prevents wear more than protects. But if you put a couple of layers on it, it's almost like an invisible boot. So it was really developed for endurance riders. So, you know, people that do 50, 100 miles put this on, and yeah, if you do that many miles, it probably won't last much more than that race. But for horses like mine or yours that don't get ridden a lot, it would last for about a trim cycle. So we call that 4 weeks, depending on what terrain they live. Of course, if it's more abrasive kind of terrain like sand or gravel, it probably wouldn't last quite that long, but it's easy to put on, and it's a great alternative for horses that have so thin soles and are footy or ouchy all the time. That really helps them feel more comfortable while they're growing more sole, because it prevents the wear of what's there now. So it just helps they can thicken really. So yeah, it's a great product.
And it's also got antibacterial and antifungal agents in it. And I forget who told me, but they said they were fighting thrush and white lie for years. And it wasn't until they started using the hoof armor that they were actually able to gain control over that. So that's really interesting as well too. Yeah. Yes.
It will prevent thrush if your horse doesn't.
Yes, it keeps dry feet moist, and it keeps wet feet drier. So it has this, it does breathe, but it also protects that foot from, because you put it over the whole solar surface of the foot, the heel bulbs, the frog, the white line, and then up to about where the nails would be on the dorsal wall. So you put it up like that. And so horses that are standing around in that, that springtime wet, mucky, muddy,
It's perfect for that.
manure-ridden pens, it's perfect for that.
Awesome. Wow.
So
Okay.
Was the inventor of that, and you can buy his product in the States from him, and then we're the Canadian distributors. So if you need to get some, you can contact Francine. The other words are.
Well, I'm just feeling so good. I love talking to you guys because you're so inspired and you love what you do so much. Yeah, it really, it just, I don't know, super, super fun conversation. I feel incredibly lucky that you guys were able to talk with us today.
Well, I really appreciate you asking us.
Yeah, it
because,
was great talking to you.
It's fun.
It was fun doing this.
Yeah, and if you ever want to do little ones on certain problems, we can kind of have like little mini education parts, like what is lavalitis or what is
With more props.
or more props. We will bring more. We'll keep the dogs away because all they want to do is eat our bones. But we can kind of do something like that. We would love to, because that's what we like to empower people to ask questions and then get knowledge. That's life.
Yeah.
Love it.
Wonderful.
We're so lucky.
And that's maybe a little plug for our listeners. If there's any kind of hoof-specific ailments that you're battling with your horse or trying to problem solve, shoot us an email and we'll get in touch with Hoof Geeks and see if we can do a little mini episode just on those. So
That would be fun.
thank you so much. It's been great. And like Emma said, just your excitement and passion is infectious. I can't wait to go outside and look at my horse's hooves.
Uh-oh, there's a geek coming along here.
Okay, guys. Well, I'm feeling like that's a wrap, Mira.
That's a wrap.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, guys.
Stay well.
If you want more Friends on Horses, you can find us on Facebook at Friends on Horses Podcast.
Check it out for all the latest and greatest horsey news.
You can find us on the web at friendsonhorsespodcast.com.
Or Instagram at friendsonhorses_podcast.
Like what you hear? Help us quit our hay jobs by supporting Friends on Horses. You can support us by rating our episodes on iTunes.
Becoming an ongoing sponsor through Patreon.
Or simply by spreading the word about our show.
Have some feedback?
We'd love to hear from you.
Contact us via email at friendsonhorses@gmail.com.
Thanks for joining us.
Until next time.